Good evening and welcome to Let's Be Real. Tonight we have our co-host, Miss Felicia Funderburk, and we also have our special guest, Mr. and Mrs. Richard and Yolanda Baker. Y'all say hey to the Facebook Live tonight.
Hello, Facebook.
Tonight we're going to be talking about marriage, what it is and what it ain't. Before we start though, I want to just take a moment to honor someone that I've known for years who actually passed away on Monday. And I think her mother is watching tonight. So we want to let Fred, her husband, her mother, Priscilla, her kids as well, and the entire Rayleigh and Rivers family let you know that we're praying for you and that God has got you in the palm of his hand. So before we start, let's just take a moment to honor Takesha Rayleigh Rivers. And we just want to let the family know that we are continually praying for you. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out. Don't hesitate. So getting into the live tonight, the topic is marriage, what it is and what it ain't. So we're going to turn it over to Mr. and Mrs. Baker. They're going to share their story with us, and we're going to take it from there. And we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you.
I'll let you tell me.
Thank you. Hello. Again, I'm Yolanda Baker. Married to Richard Baker since 2004. However, we've been partying like it's 1999, since 1999. We met actually 2 years before that. My mom used to bring me and my siblings into a local Kmart, and he was the stock guy. We were at rival schools, so needless to say, we did not like each other. We were 14 and 16 at the time. But you know what they say, what goes around comes around, because 2 years later, he was still the stock guy, and I became his co-host cashier at Kmart. So even though didn't really feel him, didn't really want to, get to know him on a deep level, I found myself every day having to call 38 to the front for a carryout. So I think that's kind of where our story started. At the time, I wasn't living at home. There was a lot of things going at home. I didn't really have a stable, roof over my head. I was sleeping at my friend's house. And, I'll just say at the beginning, it was really amazing how he really wasn't even interested in me. And because he wasn't, that really created space for him to just care about who I was as a person. So, I'll let him share anything about the start of our relationship. But I'll never forget that moment where he just created space for me at work and was a friend to me, So.
Well, I guess first of all, when we first met, you really didn't like me. You rolled your eyes at me. You kind of walked
I
off.
don't recall the rolling of the eyes. This is a long time argument. But go ahead.
You rolled your eyes at me. You walked off, and I didn't think much of it, but yeah. So as you came to start working there, I kind of remembered you, but didn't really. And we looked at each other and still same eye rolls. So even when you started, the same thing. And
still eye rolling to this day.
And the reason we actually started to talk was I was in the break room one day, and we kind of avoided each other at the beginning. So I was sitting in the break room and I heard her coming because she likes to talk, and I heard her coming. I was like, oh man, it's her. It's that girl. So I put my head on the refrigerator inside, and I acted like I was sick, so she wouldn't talk to me. But the first thing she did was offer me an aspirin. So it kind of started from there. So she offered me the aspirin. We began to talk a little bit, and then we kind of hit it off, and I like talking to her. We start going and getting her lunch and different things, and it just kind of went from there as friends. We started off as strictly friends, and you know.
And he didn't know he would get me lunch, but he didn't know that I didn't have money for lunch.
Wow.
You know, I was paying for my own clothes, my own shoes, you know, giving my friend's mom, you know, a little money or paying for my own food at the house. So he would offer, you know, we always say it started with the chalupa.
Yep.
You know, he'd go get me a chalupa from Taco Bell, and I think he thought he was just doing something nice, but, you know, here he was providing a meal for me.
Wow.
You know, so that's where we started. So that was 1999. Little did he know, you know, about 6 months later, we started dating, and one of our first dates was him going with me to Christmas shop for my siblings. We actually went Christmas shopped, took Christmas presents, diapers, formula to my mom's house, and he really helped me repair and restore what I could in a relationship with my family. He said, you know what, it's not safe. It's actually not safe for you not to be home. And he said, and here's the thing, you know, I'm going to make sure you're going to go home or whatever, but I'm not going to leave you. And we were living in an alley house, a house in the alley at the time. And he would come by every day. He would not only see about me, but he would see about my brothers and sisters. He eventually helped me get a car. I was going to drop out of high school at the time. Him and his parents encouraged me to enroll in night school.
Wow.
Tutored me, helped me with my math, and, you know, all that stuff. And then we found ourselves in 2004 getting married. We got our first house. We were working at the city together, so we kind of traveled with each other from there. He worked somewhere, I worked somewhere. It was the same. In 2004, we found ourselves, okay, hey, we're married, we got a house, you know, I'm no longer with an unstable roof over my head, we're living good. And the next thing I know, social worker calls me at work and says, got 4 siblings, they can either go to foster care or you can take them in.
Wow.
And this was a really pivotal moment because he had already carried a lot of the burden of helping me in my situation. And I'm like, here we are, married. Do I now ask him to put this burden on our marriage? And called you up at work, and I was like,
there was no question, because her brothers and sisters were my brothers and sisters by that time. We had, you know, going through life still, kind of, you know, starting off as those teenagers, and they were younger, but they were my brothers and sisters. We bought them presents, we took them places, we did everything. So there was no question that they were not going to foster care. So I ended up getting a second job and different things to help, you know, pay for them, because we tried to go and get assistance and different things, but we always made too much, so they said. So we were newlyweds, early 20s. We had some teenagers, and
yeah,
and it's like, wow, you just thrown into parenthood right there. So it was challenging, but well worth it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wow. That is truly amazing. And just having to navigate through life as newlyweds. But like you said, it's like as soon as you're married, now it's like, now I have to take care of my siblings. And just thinking about marriage in today's society, some people, and I commend you, Richard, because some men honestly would say, no, like, I didn't sign up for this. I married you for you. And that's one of the problems in marriage. Excuse me. Some marriages, most of them, people that get married now, majority of people, they already have a child. So it's about the meshing of the families and accepting the child. You have some people that are, you know, they don't want to be married to someone because you have a child, or you have a child in a different relationship, which can bring strain.
Right.
But, you know, if you set boundaries at the beginning, then, you know, you have no problems. But sometimes people just go into it and they're like, oh, you know, you have kids, and yeah, I want you, so I'm going to pretend that I want your kids too, until the rubber meets the road, and then it's
Right.
kind of like, oh no, I didn't sign up for this. So I honestly commend you for that. You have anything?
To expand on that, buddy, you know, a marriage, whether you're young or older, you have to look at the package. And to Buddy's point, sometimes the package can just appear to be a child, but it extends beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
So, the story is beautiful, and
It really
that
is.
young and taking on that level of responsibility is amazing and a blessing.
You know, but it was, I think we did it in the reverse, right? Like here we had kids already in a way that didn't belong to him or I.
Right.
And we just generally, his heart was a heart to serve, and my heart was a heart to serve. I had already been the oldest of 7. I knew what it was to sacrifice.
Right.
He's the middle of 3, you know, and so, you know, what we found though is that nobody really prepared us for marriage, let alone like in truth and what marriage looks like, let alone to have all the other things that we had layered on top of being newlyweds and young.
Right.
And, you know, we recently celebrated our anniversary in March, and, you know, I shared some real thoughts on Facebook, you know, about how we've had to meet each other at the battle line every single time, because our marriage very early on had all the statistics stacked against us. Black couple from nothing, right? Then you layer on extended family. Then you layer on, you're literally trying to break generational cycles in your family, you know, and then you want to talk about, will the marriage survive? And I know something my husband's always saying, like here in the last, I would say 10 years, is we had to go through this period where we were like surviving as people. We couldn't even really start our marriage until we got the teenagers grown.
Right.
And then here came fertility issues and our own.
Wow.
So we tell people all the time, we feel like we lived a marriage twice. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago that we really looked at each other and we said, wait a minute, like we didn't even have a chance to discover who we are as people individually, let alone what our identity was as a marriage. The preacher didn't tell us. The counselors didn't tell us. Our parents didn't tell us. Statistics didn't tell us. The world didn't tell us. And we just looked at each other and said, wait a minute. Richard is Richard and Yolanda is Yolanda. And we're different people. We've got different strengths. We've got all this. And when we think about our marriage and having it last, what is it going to take? And we just was open with each other and said, it's not going to be easy. Even though we've got over that first hurdle of raising extended family, now we've got 3 teenagers, 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old.
Wow.
You know, full-time jobs. We have an outreach organization, serve in our community, have our jobs. He's gone back to school at 40 and got his degree, and now he's going to get his bachelor's. And we were telling people, you know, a couple months ago, we go to the battle line every single day. And it is not easy. Just this week, we probably went through 2 days where I didn't like him very much, and I know he didn't like me very much. The weight of the kids, job, everything. And finally, you know, he sent me a message. I sent him a message on the phone, and we were like, let's give each other grace. Because we're actually doing pretty good given all that we have on our plate. And this is round 2 parenting for us, round 2 marriage stuff. And one of the things I would say is people don't prepare you with truth and the reality. People are so quick to encourage you to get to that jump the broom, but they hold back the realities until you get into the hard place, and they're like, oh yeah,
By the way.
You're not going to like him after 15 years every day. You may love him, but you may not like him.
Right.
Also, they won't tell you that communication is a big key for making things work. And it's got to be truthful communication. It can't be any lies or holding any feelings back. And you have to accept what
Mm.
your husband or your wife is going to say to you,
Right.
and bring that information in, and it's like, what am I going to do with this?
Mhm.
How can I make it better to make it work? So marriage is, one part of it, it is work,
Mhm.
and it's that agreement between two people that we are in this together, we're going to work together. What you bring to the table and what I bring to the table, we're going to make that shit together, and we're going to make it work. And we're going to have some hard times,
Mhm.
but we're going to get through those times together.
Yeah.
And we,
Yeah.
work for it.
One of the things that I just never saw until Richard and I went through some things in our marriage. We never heard about, the 5 love languages of love, right?
Mhm.
Understanding our love languages. And
Mhm.
even though I know his heart and he knows mine, we were never intentional about understanding love languages. I'm an acts of service and words of affirmation. I need him to tell me that I'm loved, to tell me that I need to be quiet sometimes. I need him to tell me that, because I can't read his signals. Whereas he's more of a physical touch. He's also a little bit of words of affirmation, and we have learned through doing that study and really kind of stopping and saying, wait a minute, am I missing your love language?
Mhm.
So he said something to me this week that, it was hard for me to hear. He said, babe, again, this is what he sent me in the message. And he's learned to message me because I need a moment
Mhm.
rather than just
Mhm.
say something. And I'm learning to do the same. So just being real on this talk show tonight. I mean, he sent me a message earlier in the week. He said, I need you to communicate and tell me how you feel. And he said, but babe, do you understand when I tell you how I feel, you don't always like what I have to say.
Mhm.
So then I don't say anything. And this is like this 2-hour text exchange. And I'm like, well, just tell me and I have to deal with it. He said, but are you really ready to deal with it?
Mhm.
Wow.
Take a moment. Are you really? And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm in the car, in the parking lot,
Mhm.
just frustrated,
Mhm.
boiling. He knew it, boiling or whatever. But he came back later and he said, I love you. And I know that it's hard for me sometimes to tell you, to verbalize it, because I'm more of an introvert, you're an extrovert. But when I tell you, you have to give me that grace. You have to give me that space too.
Mhm.
So I told him, I said, listen, I'm sorry. I know sometimes I just let it come out because I talk and I am the talkative one, but that's my love language. Like, that's how I communicate. I communicate with words. But it was just that whole exchange.
Mhm.
And what we've also learned is to not hide it from our boys.
Mhm.
I feel like, people around us hid the hard parts. They didn't say anything. Elephants in the room.
Mhm.
And everybody acting like they can't see the elephant in the room.
Right.
And the way we work in our household, we see the elephant.
Mhm.
So let's sit down
And address it.
and address it.
Mhm.
We may not like each other
That's right.
for 24 hours,
Mhm.
but we're going to do that. And then another thing that I will just share that has been a lifesaver for us. We do not play around about date night.
Uh-oh. Tell us about it.
I don't care. He'll say, well, we don't have no money. That is not true. Because we just paid for these kids to have catered lunch. We got money for date nights.
Wow.
It may be that, we don't get whatever the next 2 days. But Richard and Yolanda, you better ask him. We will search out a restaurant, closing in 15 minutes, and beg them to take us so we can have a moment to ourselves.
Wow.
We love our sons, we love people, we love community, but we love each other.
Mhm.
And there is no better investment. That is the best $125 we spent the other night at the Basil
Yeah.
Thai. It was wonderful.
That's good eating too.
And we had a
That's
moment
good.
together. We got out stuff out on the table. We did some business planning and strategy planning and financial planning. Got little calculators out. We do whatever we want to do. But if we're investing in everything else and everybody else, a date night is investment to us.
Right.
So we don't miss it. When I tell you we don't go a week without a date night.
Right.
Even if that's sitting in the Harris Teeter parking lot broke talking about people.
Enjoying your space.
Right.
Enjoying our space. Right there, you can pass us in the Harris Teeter parking lot. We'll be sitting there, just sitting there, talking, listening to the radio, and sharing them cheese snapping things that you and I are addicted to right now. What were you gonna say, babe?
I was just gonna say how important it is,
Mhm.
especially when you have kids, to do that. Because for a while in our marriage, the kids, it was like we lived for the kids, and we were beginning to lose each other. So that the date nights, you know, they mean so much to us because of that. Because the kids are gonna grow up, they're gonna go to college or whatnot, and they're gonna be gone. And
Just like the siblings, gone.
just like siblings, everybody's gonna be gone. And then if you've lost each other, you're sitting there looking at each other like,
Who are you?
who are you? And we don't talk, we just sit at the table and look at each other.
Mhm.
And we don't want that. You know, growing up, my parents kind of ended up like that. And that's not a life that I want us to have.
Right.
Mhm.
And on that note, kids feel the energy too.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
they are going to mirror and sometimes repeat. So it's important to show them those things.
Mhm.
We may not realize it now that they're paying attention.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you brought that up about,
Mhm.
you know, taking time for yourself and you're not feeling selfish
Yep.
doing that, because that's important for your children to see.
And we're actually seeing it now. Our son has a friend girl, and she did something, and it really bothered him. So he came to me. He said, "Mom," he's like, "this really bothered me." I said, "Son, you're telling me, but have you told her?" And I stopped him. I said, "You need to tell her." He said, "But like tell her everything, like everything I feel." I said, "Everything that you feel." And then let her, though, tell you why she made the decision she made, because you don't know her circumstances,
Right.
you know. And then we point back to ourselves and like how his dad made space for me, and he didn't really know my circumstances, you know. So we've seen it, and to your point, in our own boys, kind of living it out, and you know, it kind of makes you proud because you're like, okay, because we'll lean over sometimes, oh, we did that, right?
Yeah, the fruits of your labor.
Right. Or we'll be like, I think we about to mess this one up. Are we good with our, we strategize, you know? And I just think specifically, you know, for Black marriages, you know, it's just so important, specifically in our community. I feel like there's just so many other pressures. You know, my husband was talking to me today about how hard it is as a Black father sometimes to, you know, hold back, you know, anger and upset because he doesn't want to be the angry Black man. Same thing for me, you know, and things like that. And then at the same time, we're trying to teach our boys to have an open heart and don't assume that everybody's racist or everybody's this or everybody's that. We also tell our boys statistics were created by people, therefore you can create a victory and overcome those statistics because you're also a person.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You have equal power.
Right.
So you can either accept what those statistics are, or you can combat those statistics with new statistics that say that you can, you know. And it's just one of the things that we've, you know, that we've just had to kind of work through. But
I want to talk about individuality within a marriage. How does that look, or talk to that for us? Speak to that for us.
so that has been a long process because, and I know Richard's okay with it because we talk about it all the time. I've always been in corporate, you know, always made decent money. He's always been a public servant, not making as much money. And I know that it's been hard for him with society, that society tells you as an individual, you should be this.
Right.
Breadwinner, you should be in corporate, you should be traveling for business, all these things.
Right.
And it's taken a long time, I think, for us as individuals to say, okay, this is who I am. And you don't need to be who I am or try to be who I am because the world tells you. You're a great present father, out there with sports. I mean, when I was traveling for business, he was helping the kids learn to walk, potty training. And they remember those moments that they can say their dad did that. You know, so I know that you've been thinking through that individuality thing, you know.
I mean, I kind of take a different route on it. Individually. Like for you, you like to write and, you know, go out and do a lot of those things. Me, as my individual, I like to have space sometimes. Then I gotta have my alone time, and I like cars and different things like that. So those differences, you know, those parts of being an individual, I think, are important too. And you have to allow, you know, space for your partner to be them. So, like, she likes to go out a lot. So sometimes, yes, I need to go out with her and, you know, be a part of that. And she as well allows me to have my alone time sometimes when I need that. So being individual that way is kind of how I kind of view that, you know, as letting you kind of do your own thing, the things that are important to you for your personality at certain times.
That's my question. What about your communication? I know you spoke a little bit about love language, but just how you communicated with each other in the beginning versus how you communicate with each other now.
I think in the beginning, communication was appeasing in some ways. You know, it was, I didn't want to. I was so grateful to have someone that truly cared and loved for me because I didn't have that at home. And I didn't want to mess that up. So his quiet space time that he's talking about, that bothered me because when he would do that, I would be like, he doesn't want to be with me anymore, or he doesn't love me, or like, you know, he didn't call me this morning, so did I do something wrong or whatever? And instead of verbalizing it, I just didn't say anything. Or like when I wanted to go out to a poetry show or something like that, I wouldn't ask him because I was afraid that, because he doesn't really like that, that I didn't want to go. So I think it was appeasing, you know, in a way.
It was, and in the beginning that was an issue as well because it was just appeasing. So it wasn't, you know, the relationship wasn't really built on truth. So, you know, that brought its own challenges to the relationship. And once we got that worked out to where we would tell each other how we truly feel, our marriage got better.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Even to a place of where we're like, wait a minute, can we really do this? Like, you got all these siblings coming to live with us, they left. So we had that. Then we had our own kids. It was like, so then we went through these phases of communication, and as soon as we thought we had a space to kind of work through it, the different things pulled us in different directions and all of that. And we finally, it cost us in a lot of ways. We actually had, when I talk about going to the battle line, anytime you're in the battle of anything, you're going to lose something, you know. And for me, one of the hardest parts for me was kind of walking away from my career at one point. Because, yeah, you can make a lot of money, but if I'm coming home and we're not happy and we're not together, we're not going to, so I had to choose. So we, you know, made a mutual decision. I'm going to quit my job. And we also made a mutual decision that the lights was going to probably get cut off in 6 months. He was down for it. We lit the candles and paid it the next day, you know, but we were much happier, ironically, with the lights off, making a blanket on the floor with a candle. Telling the kids it's just a with the electric.
They had the whole neighborhood.
He said the whole neighborhood out. And you know, as a kid, they like it. It's just our little
candle too,
right?
So, you know, but we were so happy. You know, a little camper blanket in the living room with the light. I'm like, okay, well, I do have to get a job. I can't stay like this. I don't like tuna fish. You know, but it was sacrifice. He stayed home for a year, quit his job, stayed home, was a stay-at-home dad. Had to store breast milk and poop everywhere. He called me at work. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, trying to get him to sleep. I'm a man. I want to go to work. You know, like, I'm patting him on his bottom, trying to get him to go to sleep. But he made that sacrifice. I made that sacrifice. And it was interesting that in those, you know, what it ain't moments, as y'all were saying about the show, we were kind of the happiest.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're like, you know what? We don't want to lose this. So we lose a job tomorrow. As long as hey, it's another one out there, but you know what? If I got to sleep in the back seat of the Mustang, or make a
Look, he's like, we done got too old for this.
Can't do that no more.
I can't do that.
We're a little bit past that now.
So you're gonna have to figure out something else.
Let's talk about this. Hey, I was still willing to get an air mattress and sleep in the back of the truck if you were willing to. I'm still willing. But no, on a serious note, people ask us all the time, like, oh, y'all, you're a great couple, all this kind of stuff. But that's why, you know, for our anniversary note, you know, he read it, I read it. I said, you know what? I'm being real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being real. We celebrating what it is and what it ain't today.
Wow.
And it feels good. It really did.
Yeah.
And it was freeing because, like I told you in the beginning, what people didn't tell us,
Mm-hmm.
we say it. And we got so many inboxes from people that said, man, if
Wow.
I had that
Right.
during the marriage counseling,
Mm-hmm.
that would have reset my whole mindset with my husband or my wife or whatever it was. You know?
Not even the marriage counseling. Some people
Just-
read it like me. If I had that during the marriage,
Right.
because a lot of times we put so many sticklers and we rules and it's got to go this way. We got to do it this way. We got to do it that way, instead of just living.
Right.
And like your story, moment by moment. Let's take it moment by moment
Together.
and figure it out. But as long as you do it together, then that's what makes it
Yeah.
work.
That's right.
You can't be separated and you going here, you going up, and I'm going down.
Yeah.
Hidden agendas.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And because of all those moments, last fall, my husband got sick with COVID and had to make that decision to drop him off at the hospital. And I thought, man, I'm going to drop him off to the hospital. He's going to go in. I understand I couldn't go in with him. And he's going to come out. And he didn't come out.
Wow.
I mean, it was 4, 5, 6 days there before I even really was able to communicate with him. A couple weeks later, I get a phone call from the doctor that said, Miss Baker, your husband's not getting better. We have to make a decision to put him on the ventilator. If we don't change the medicine and pray for a miracle, and I'm going to let you know, we'll put him on the ventilator. I can't tell you he's going to get off.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I was sick. My boys were sick. And it was in those moments that, like, I played the reel of our marriage. And I said, wait a minute, I'm prepared for this. Because my husband has equipped me through his strength that I'm going to take care of these boys. I'm going to get on the phone with this doctor. I'm going to hold them accountable. I am not going to sink in this moment, because when I look at what we've been through as a couple,
Wow.
we can get through COVID. And if death do us part, that's what we said to each other. If death do us part, we know we have lived the life that we were called to live together. And when he got out of the hospital, I'll never forget you shared with me. He said, I knew if I went to sleep, I wasn't going to wake up. And I didn't want to leave you guys. He did not sleep in the hospital. And it was at one point I told the nurse, I said, I don't think my husband is sleeping. Isn't that something? How I didn't know, but I felt it.
Right.
And I said, I don't think my husband is sleeping. I hear him. And she said, Miss Baker, he's not. What would you like me to do? And I said, can you slip him something to give him rest? Because we're okay. And I have a feeling he's staying up because he's worried about us.
Wow.
And when he got out of the hospital, sadly, we had to send him back to the hospital. He had heart issues. And it was a long road on top of getting him to help finish his degree and all that stuff. But we just kept saying, you know what? If death do us part, we know that we have lived a great life together. We made it through some hard moments, and we just kind of reflected on the phone, just like, it's okay. If death do us part, we're all right. Because we know we made it. We were able to do all of this in this lifetime that we got together. So for me, like, it's really an honor for us to be here, because we tell our boys, we tell people all the time, statistics and generational cycles and all those things are already kind of stacked against us. The playbook's already written.
Right.
But it's your choice if you want to just accept the playbook as written.
Right.
You know, you've been given an opportunity to rewrite that playbook for how it will fit for you. And we may not have made all the best decisions along the way. God knows we did not. But I say it over and over again. Till death do us part, I'm going to the battle line. You know.
And I'm just thinking now, excuse me, just thinking now about the beginning of your story and looking at you now. We're talking about the head in the refrigerator with the aspirin and the going to get the chalupas. Even back then, you were serving each other, and now God has blessed you together in unity to serve your community. And I'm just thankful that I have been afforded an opportunity to know both of you, because just thinking of you, I know the story now. Serve unity. We're serving the community, but now I know the backstory. Even back then, when you didn't know that you were going to be serving the community, you were comfortable and humble enough to serve one another, and that's what it's about. To be able to give, give of yourself. You got, Felicia. I see you. Your eyes looking like they're water. What you got over here?
Don't start there, but no, it's very humbling. A lot of people are not willing to share their truth.
Right.
And you talking about the story, I am all about writing the narrative. And when your narrative does not look like what everybody else think it should look like, because you have the nice job, because what it looks like, but you're still human beings and you're doing it together. So I love that you just keep talking about the story, writing your story, and not taking what's handed to you.
Because we have the pen.
That's right.
And every morning when we get up, new mercies.
Yeah.
You get a blank sheet of paper, erase what happened yesterday,
Yeah.
and start afresh today.
That's right.
So forget about what happened yesterday. The ups and downs, the fights, the fusses, and whatever it is. You got a blank sheet of paper, and take your pen and write the vision and make it plain.
That's right. And trust the process.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing. You have to trust whatever the process is. And whatever, one of my favorite scriptures is, whatever state I find myself in, I want to be content in that state.
That's right.
No matter what it is.
That's right.
Well, you got anything else?
I don't.
So
I'm encouraged.
I am very encouraged.
Good way to end my week. For sure.
Well, we're going on date night. So,
Oh.
okay.
Well,
Is it going to be in the Harris Teeter parking lot?
No. It's going to be at the Hickory Tavern.
All right.
Oh, nice. That's nice. I like it.
Well, before we end tonight, I am going to ask you two to encourage a married couple that may be going through rocky times, maybe at that crossroad of, can we do this anymore? And then any engaged couples who may be headed towards marriage, if y'all can just encourage them for us tonight.
Well, I think for the married couples that are going through hard times, communication is still key. Those hard times that you're going through, if you haven't really talked to each other about those things that are truly the issue of what's going on, that's something that needs to be, addressed. And you can get through it. We have hard times, and in the beginning we had very hard times. So we had some times that we thought maybe, this is not going to work. But we went back, we talked about it, we got the issues out, and we knew that we loved each other enough to stay and work on those things. And we were able to get through it. And, so whatever you're going through, you need to be truthful, be honest about it, talk about it, and, decide that whether, hey, this is the person I really want to spend the rest of my life with. So I'm going to do what I need to do to fix whatever issue this is, and we're going to work this thing out together. And you can do it. And we are an example of that.
I think for the married couple, communication is key. But married doesn't mean that you are literally one. You're two individual people that are joined together in marriage. But that doesn't mean that I'm not Yolanda and he's not Richard. And I think, to my husband's point, part of communication is also being willing to accept that you each have things you need to work on. Through our hard times, it was revealed to me that I needed therapy to heal from some things that were haunting me from childhood, things that happened to me, things that I saw. There was no way I was really ready for marriage. I really wasn't. I wasn't. Did I battle through it? Yes. But there were things in my childhood that really shaped how I handled communication, how I communicated what I needed, you know, and it caused a period where we were lost from one another. Communication is key, but individuality and knowing who you are, and like my husband saying, being willing to work on it individually. And if you love each other, you have to understand it's going to take time. It is not, even though we are in a great, you know, a better place and all this stuff, a great place around a lot of things, there's any given week where on a Tuesday, randomly, all of a sudden, we're not seeing eye to eye on something simple. Like dinner. Who didn't plan dinner? And then we have to step back and say, wait a minute, we got 3 boys being pulled in 17 different directions. I didn't think about dinner, and neither did he. So tonight, to keep peace, to not take it out on each other, we're just going to have to buy dinner. And then guess what? You can't get them shoes you was trying to get, them mellows. Because we just got to buy dinner. You know? Or I can't get, you know, I can't invest in what I'm going to invest in or whatever. He'll say that to me. If we're going to spend that on dinner, we got to spend it on dinner. But I'd rather do that and still have him. You know. And then for the engaged couple, it's kind of the same thing. I feel like when you're engaged, people are so focused on making sure you make it to the altar. Forget what they see you doing. Forget what you see. Everybody's just, they're engaged. Let's get them to the altar.
Right.
But I think of the altar now as a battle line. I really do. It's a battle line where Christ is right there. And you two have your hard hats on, not your wedding dress and your fancy suit and all that. In reality, you got your military hats on, you got your armor on, you got your boots on, and you two are at that battle line looking at each other saying, we got to get across it. We got to get across it. And it's not going to be easy. But we have personal relationships with the Lord now. You know, in our marriage, faith is big. He's got a personal relationship. I've got a personal relationship. What I had to come to realize is the battle plan that the Lord was whispering for him to carry out was a little bit different than what he wanted me to carry out. So we meet at the battle line. Individually, we seek out that encouragement, that guidance, that word that we need, that plan that he needs, that I need. And we look at each other and say, this is the battle line today. You might get shot and I might get shot. But if I get shot, I'm not going to leave you behind. If, you know, same vice versa, right? And we cross it. Wow. And I feel like when people are engaged, it's just get them to the altar. And when you get to that altar, that's when it starts. That's when the battle to win in marriage starts. So you have to equip yourself with all that armor. Communication, seek counseling if you need to. He's not a big counseling fan. I know that. But he gets counsel in a different way than I do. I'm going to call a therapist. He's a do a research, seek spiritual counseling, all these other different things. Our plan just looks different, you know? But communication, seeking your individual self-care, therapy, whatever you need is important. Take time for yourself and each other. When I tell you we demand time for each other, we will tell our kids, today, you might not go to basketball because we are starving for a moment for ourselves. And that's just is what it is, boys. Today, mom and dad need it. So communication, that individual, who you are, seeking that help, and demand time for yourself. Demand and command and take hold of time for you as a couple. Turn it all off, command that time, take hold of it, and don't let it go, because all that stuff will pile on, and the next thing you know, you made it to the altar, but you already done lost the battle.
and also be true to each other.
Yeah.
In the beginning,
Mm.
be true so you know who you are going into that battle with, and you know that's the best way to do it is to start off being truthful with yourself and truthful with your partner, because you don't want to go to the altar, get past that wedding day, and then you know after all of the the flowers and all that great ceremony, and then you get there on the other side and you find out this person is not who you thought they were, or you're not who you said that you were in the beginning. So for that engaged couple, I say make sure that you guys are being truthful to yourselves and you're giving your true you to each other.
Right. Anything else, Miss Felicia?
Nothing else, Mr. Robertson.
Nothing else.
Nothing.
Well, we thank you guys for coming tonight and sharing your amazing story. And again, Richard, I want to, one black man to another, one father to another, salute you for standing in the gap for your children, for your family. I heard her say, you know, when you were changing the diapers, I'm a man, I need a job. But sometimes as fathers, that's what we have to do. And I commend you just for being the stand-up man and a man of God. And I want to say that I'm praying for you all, ready to serve with you all, with Serve Unity and serve more. And just want to bid you guys speed in your marriage, that you continue to grow together, and that you continue to bless people, I'm going to say globally.
Yes.
And I thank y'all for coming out tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you. Yes. Pleasure meeting you, Rob.